What up? What up? We back. We back. We back. The Watchman Chronicles, part 4. We're reading Revising Reality. This chapter is called The Gods of CERN Awaken. Let's get it. Breaking up is hard to do. Yeah, we're going right into it. So if you didn't watch part 3, go watch part 3. You know, we're getting right into it. Breaking up is hard to do. By virtue of its 27-kilometer configuration, the LHC, Large Hadron Collider, will produce a toroidal field. What is that, you ask? It is a donut-shaped field resulting from the electromagnetic lines of force generated by both its superconducting magnets and accelerated protons, held in line by those magnets. To follow circular paths, it says within the cryogenically cooled vacuum of the pipes, as the 27-kilometer long main ring of the LHC is also known. Now, we all know Switzerland is a cold place. It says, but the pipes of the LHC are colder and much colder. For inside the pipes, the interior stays colder than most temperatures in outer space. Anticipating, you are wondering just how cold outer space is, allow me to digress. To begin, it varies based upon who's asking, or more accurately, who is nearby, and whether more photons are being absorbed or being emitted. Losing photons means it makes you colder, while gaining photons makes you warmer. Absolute zero constitutes approximately a minus 270 degrees Celsius. Pluto, our distant microplanet friend, is almost that cold. In other words, being on Pluto would be just as frigid as being inside the pipes of the LHC. But getting back to physics, the awake linear particle accelerator says rather than employing magnets to force particles to scurry down a curved pathway, instead moves them in a straight line configuration to near the speed of light. Utilizing waves of electromagnetically charged plasma and a pulsed laser, electrons are used as a witness beam, think tracer bullets fired from a machine gun, while protons and nearly any other type of charged particle may be accepted by employing this machine's esoteric services. It says before too much longer, however, says both the awake and LHC accelerators will be combined. Projecting a linear beam of charged particles through the center of the circular toroidal field. This beam will be focused and directed by the toroidal field, targeting a very specific point. If you want to know where it may be pointing and why, keep reading. It is at this moment, says, when the strong force will be broken. Says with a resulting gap between the quantum particles. Then a portal will have been pulled out of thin air, ripped open, if you will, creating a doorway to another dimension. In this instance, the gap, as a pathway to God, takes on a profound new meaning, it says, from what theologians historically have discussed. All right. New heading. The gods around and under the machine. Okay. This is the whole point, body of Christ. This is the whole point, people, right here. It says we should not overlook the point that the LHC is located on the site of the ancient Roman temple to the Roman god Apollo. This is no accident. Straddling the border between France and Switzerland, CERN extends through the French town of Saint Genus Poili. The name Poili derives from the Latin Apolliacum. In Roman times, the site was believed to be the gateway to the abyss. Given that I believe the planters of the LHC had an occult intent in mind when they devised and built the machine of machines, it takes on special spiritual significance. Now that I have your attention, let's ask together, why, pray tell, are men and women of science delving into matters of spirituality? It says, why do they want to connect pagan, ancient gods while refusing to acknowledge the real creator of our universe? Question mark. Permit me to place this question into a biblical context. Look at Revelations 9, 1 through 11. Quoting from the New International Version, the NIV. The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of the smoke locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of a sting of a scorpion when it strikes. During those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. It says the locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. It says they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, and in their tails they had power to torment men 5 months. They had a king over them, the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon, that is, destroyer. Apollyon is Apollo. And guess what? Apollo is not the only god to whom the devisers of CERN pay homage. It says, recall the picture in the last chapter of the Hindu god Shiva, right in the middle of the grounds. Okay, you now ask, why did CERN's founders decide to place a statue of the Hindu god Shiva outside the headquarters building? Question mark. Given that Shiva is a god worshipped for his powers of destruction, laying bare the cosmos, says followed by rebirth, what meaning does this imply? Note, Christianity lies wholly devoid of any mention by the members of the LHC. It says much less the placement of a cross upon the hallowed grounds at CERN, hallowed that is to pagan gods. However, I don't mean to sound surprised by their choice. It is not a simple oversight. It is most intentional. It has been my contention all along that the ultimate objective of CERN concerns spirits, not just physics. Not only that, to be more specific, I believe CERN's quest to birth a new race of beings. To accomplish this great work, it will enlist support from agents of the dark side. That is, the LHC intends to play a part in recreating humanity and fulfilling the lie as propagated by Satan himself. Says we know humanity was promised divinity by Lucifer a long time ago. However, here we are once again, having come full circle, albeit a ringed particle accelerator circle in Switzerland, to devise yet another way to become as gods. Says no doubt the scientists at CERN, almost all of them, I think, are unaware of any sort of Luciferian agenda, just like Freemasons are unaware of the Illuminati adepts at the heart of their ideology. Nevertheless, I believe this reveals what the fuss at CERN is really all about. Yes, the true story will sound exactly like a Dan Brown novel, and prominent aspects of many other science fiction stories to boot. But hold on to your hats. We are just getting started. Next heading. The hidden agenda behind CERN's collisions. Displayed behind curved glass panels are ancient parchments and animal skins which can contain formulae for communing with the gods. Says many paranormal practitioners derive forbidden knowledge from corrupted deities and demonic entities, such things as Long hidden incantations include instructions describing, for example, frequencies of audible sound energy that must be produced to open demonic dimensional portals. Another amazing matter that could be asked in the form of a question is, how does one communicate with spirit entities existing on the other side? Question mark. Because it's timely, I will drop a hint here. Says the Tower of Babel was more than likely attempting the very same thing. A Dance of Symmetry film was produced in 2015 by CERN. It says replete with ceremonial dance movements meant for both the inducement of trance-like states in the dancers as well as vibrations and frequencies tuned by communicating with an uncharted dimension. Once again, such inexplicable, there we go, activity begs the question, why is the scientific community involving itself in what to the outside observer appears most unscientific? Question mark. It is not a ceremonial, if not religious ritual? Question mark. The practice has been repeated again in Switzerland on June 1st, 2016 at the opening of the Gotthard Base Tunnel. Please go check that out. Gotthard Base Tunnel. Was it a satanic ritual? No doubt it was a grossly pagan one with leaders of Europe prominent in their attendance. As Stephen E. Flower states in his book Fire and Ice, Switzerland, Australia, and Germany are home base for occultist practices. England, it should be noted, wasn't far behind. Coincidence? Question mark. These types of questions have been posed to the leadership of CERN. In the case of the glass enclosed artifacts and puzzling placement of these items at CERN is dismissed as simply a reverence for our ancient past or perhaps an artistically choreographed celebration of the ongoing achievements by the brilliant minds among the community of scientists and engineers at CERN. It is harmless, a self-indulgent recognition of human alchemists, it says, whether a magician or technologist. Of course, one such achievement takes note of their purported discoveries of the Higgs boson particle, coined by the press as the God particle. It is considered one of the first particles produced during the early moments of the Big Bang, earliest moments as in a split second. To be sure, this was a remarkable story of what humanity can do when combining its efforts to achieve something extraordinary. If the motivation was only purely research for the sake of science and achievement, indisputable benefits for humanity, it would all be well and good. Unhappily, there's much more to it than that. The agenda is sinister. Additionally, as a Christian, I continue to be struck by the outright dismissal of any consideration of the Bible and its relevant message, as well as praise to the divine author and creator. The top minds revere their own mental capacity, but not the mind of the one who created the cosmos in the beginning. This oversight, and I deem it quite intentional, is made even more breathtaking when considering the occulted behavior of the operators of the various ultra-high-tech devices submerged 300 feet beneath the surface of France and Switzerland. The outright hubris of the promoters of the multifaceted hidden agenda must not be overlooked, especially by those of us who humbly revere the God of the cosmos, who deserves far more praise than those who only discover his ways. Indeed, their plan amounts to much more than simply discovering the particles composing the physical reality we call the universe. Likewise, it involves much more than opening dimensional doorways. The masters of the machine seek an ancient promise that ye shall be gods, having obtained the knowledge of good and evil. Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. What is being reaffirmed in humanity's latter days, just as it was during its early beginnings, is that mankind, through the exalted acquisition of pristine ancient knowledge, Presca Sapientia, I guess that might be Latin, has chosen evil over good. Perhaps this should be expected. It says, but it remains regrettable. For the self-proclaimed lofty men and women of science, in professing themselves wise, they became fools. Romans chapter 1, verse 22. They have chosen consciously and deliberately to believe the lie. In their unconcealed overconfidence, the truth is that they strive for immortality through the prowess of scientific research and its derivative of machines. On the surface, this seems like an outrageous allegation. It says, but I will explain why CERN plays an important role in this occulted quest. With God's leading, accompanied by your patience, it should become clear to most readers why CERN has become the modern Tower of Babel and its leaders the ideological sons of Nimrod. Next heading, a DNA makeover masquerading behind the LHC. It's 2016, people. The impetus for building the Large Hadron Collider today is no different than it was for the Tower of Babel long ago. Says many teachers believe that in the days of Noah, the fallen angels and perhaps their offspring, the Nephilim, engaged in manipulating human DNA. The implications for unsaved humanity, its vainglorious destiny, will be the same as Noah's generation spread across the face of the antediluvian world. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Genesis chapter 6, verse 15. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Matthew chapter 24, verse 37. We uncover this pernicious pursuit by diving deep into the origins of particle accelerators. It says we discover there that our human DNA and RNA are the very things that Satan intends to alter. I'm going to start that over again. I want you to listen to that. We uncover this pernicious pursuit by diving deep into the origins of particle accelerators. It says we discover there that our human DNA and RNA are the very things that Satan intends to alter. He hates all of God's creation. He especially hates man and woman, as we are image bearers of our Creator. And yet, he seeks our worship, and he desires that by changing our nature, we will reflect his image instead of Yahweh's. His goal guides and undergirds transhumanism. His mission amounts to nothing less than the creation of the Ubermensch of Netzsky. That's dealing with in Germany with the NAZIS's. Science history credits Dr. Ernest Lawrence with the invention of the circular type of particle accelerator. His machines continue operating at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, as well as hundreds of other proliferated around the world. He began with small handheld prototypes, which evolved into the Beavatron, then Cyclotron, and on into our day with the synchrotron housed within the Advanced Light Source building on the UC Berkeley campus. As a preteen, this author accompanied his physician father to visit the early machines on the Berkeley campus that I would later attend as an undergraduate. At that time, it was also the formative period of oncology. In particular, oncology addressing the thyroid. Dr. Lawrence's machines bombarded cancer in the thyroid using particles accelerated to high energies. Patients were transported up the hill to the RAD lab overlooking to both the campus and the San Francisco Bay. There they sat passively on a chair, alongside a small sliding panel separating them from the massive magnets which were imposingly housed, says, within that circular building. Had any of the patients actually peered at the machine on the other side of this panel, and they might have had second thoughts about submitting their sick thyroid to the target practice of this machine and its presumably benevolent minders. Of course, these unfortunate folk, says, were patients suffering the end of stages of cancer. Says they placed their scant amount of hope in medicine's latest miracle. Understandably, says they were willing subjects with no other alternative. Says, but today, the state-of-the-art machine is a synchrotron, producing the most powerful X-rays outside of the LHC at CERN. Thus, the facility bears the name, the Advanced Light Source Building, ALS. Perhaps, surprisingly, it is here the Human Genome Project originated. Barry Sartoro. Go look it up. Human Genome Project. This is so because X-rays infer the location, size, shape, and arrangement of DNA and RNA. Successful sequencing of human DNA is an outgrowth of particle accelerators. Says while three-dimensional computer modeling of the amino acids and proteins took place within a computer, they were reconstructed outside it in a laboratory. Today, beginning at the quantum scale, at the tiniest end of the physical spectrum, these actual particles smaller than atoms are sequentially arranged according to the designs of man and not of God. So, it is we have entered into a new mini era of the longer-lived so-called digital age. And we may call this period the era of digitized DNA. It is fast becoming the most dangerous time in human history. How does it work? Biologically, biological sampling is conducted at one location, says, with the sequencing of DNA at another. First, says, digitizing the twin helical structure occurs. Then scientists transmit this digital coding to another sequencer, which resembles the original patterns of DNA. Says, remember, DNA is the acronym for deoxyribonucleic acid. 4 types of nitrogen bases compose these nucleotides: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, ATGC. These are chemical codes whose combination lies beneath every creature on Earth. Says whether flora or fauna, planet or Earth, encoding every single distinctive feature of those life forms. Says whatever coding humanity has engineered to replicate realities, it pales in comparison to the coding and the miniaturization designs God devised in creating us. Of course, the evolutionist argues in such incredible design work was accomplished purely by chance. Apart from the original biological sampling site, for the first time in the recorded history of mankind, says notwithstanding an advanced ancient civilization whose existence is hinted at by what author Michael Cremo called forbidden archaeology, but hidden, says, by the mist of time, the reassembly and resequencing of DNA carries with it the most serious implications. For not only can the original pattern of DNA be replicated, it can also be altered either prior to or upon receipt of its transmission. Like packets of information carried over the internet, DNA, akin to packets, can be received in a sequence that is in or out of order. Routers, which we all utilize at home to connect our computer to other computers in our house or to the internet, have a means through which they verify a sequence is correct, and the packets are represented in the right structure called parity checking. However, says genetic scientists are the routers of the DNA sequence, and parity checking isn't in play when humans are manipulating or reordering the DNA packets. This enables the alteration of DNA, effectively mutating the original. Technically speaking, the resulting entity is altered or constitutes a chimera or a hybrid if the sequence is borrowed from another creature's DNA. New forms of biological life can and have been realized in the laboratory, says whether mutants or hybrids. We must ask, however, has life itself been created? In my opinion, no. Only our Creator gives the gift of life from scratch, or as theologians would say, ex nihilo, from nothing. See Hebrews 11:3. However, actual living organisms have indeed been manufactured from that which already exists, beyond the petri dish level. It says we now know animal and even human organs have been cultivated at labs globally. So it does not take a great leap of faith to conclude entire bodies of creatures, even human bodies, have possibly, if not possibly, been fabricated already as well. This is 2016, people. Thus, we have the imminent arising of human hybrids soon to be released into our world. Some argue they already walk among us. It says what was once the stuff of ancient myths or modern science fiction, especially the accounts of Nephilim, as discussed earlier in this book, now overtakes us. These offspring of the fallen, sons of God, mating with the daughters of men in Genesis chapter 4, or the giants inhabiting Canaan in Numbers chapter 13:33, now more than ever before, deserve our attention. Likewise, says the chimera hinted at in the Hebraic Apocrypha are real-time sketches of what happens today in unbridled genetic labs. As God says, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. The boundaries of what God intended have been breached by humanity, unfettered by God's loving restraints. The horrors of what lies ahead will exceed our wildest imaginations, and CERN plays no small part in the debut at our horror show's premiere. So, I'm going to stop there. Got about 30 minutes, It's quite a bit left. No problem. But, this is going to get out by Monday. The Lord willing, this is going to get out by Monday. So, the next little heading, the open door policy at CERN. The open door policy at CERN. That'll be part 5. Let's get it.